Okay. All right. So that brings us, there you are. Okay, all right, that brings us to our breakfast. Thank you, yes, yes, yes. All right, are you ready? Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sheHakhel niyeh b'dvarei. Okay.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way.
All right. Yeah, I'm back. All right. Today in Jewish history. Today is the yahrzeit of the Sharei Tshuva, Rabbi Chaim Mordechai Margolis. First, he was the rabbi in Brzezinski, Poland, and later in Dubna, Poland and Ukraine. He's the author of a digest of halachic responsa written after the publication of the Code of Jewish Law, known as the Sharei Tshuva. Yeah, you've heard of him, I know. He passed away around 1823. His work can be found in the margins of most prints of the Code of Jewish Law. The Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, formed his Chabura Kadosha in Padua in 1731, and there was an emancipation for Jews passed by Hungary in 1867. In 1965, Francisco Franco met with Jewish representatives to discuss the legal status of the Jewish community in Spain, and the Demanjuk trial in Yerushalayim started on this day in 1987. I know, right? Heavy-duty stuff. All right. What else do I have for you today? Yeah. You know what? That's pretty much it. We talked about shots fired in the Chabad house on Friday. I have something about that.
By gunfire when a man pulls out a gun and starts shooting inside a San Francisco synagogue. Thank you for joining us for Crown 4 News tonight at 10. I'm Pam Moore.
I'm Ken Wayne. The people in that video shaken up by what happened. The good news is it wasn't bullets. It was believed to be blanks that were shot.
Crown 4's Sarah Stinson joins us here in the studio tonight with more of the video.
San Francisco police and the FBI are looking for help in identifying the shooter in this video, who opened fire into the Schneerson Center. It's a synagogue open for prayer daily. I talked with people at that synagogue who call this a targeted attack.
This is crazy. I didn't know that happened.
To me, this feels like an act of terrorism. The idea was to terrify the Jewish people here. It's the only reason I can think of someone doing this.
The vice president of the Schneerson Center, Alon Honikov, wasn't there when shots rang out at the synagogue, but he reviewed the surveillance video the next morning.
Terrified, shocked, disbelief.
The night of February 1st looked like any other night at the center on Balboa Street, a night of prayer and gathering over food and drinks. But that night around 7:20, a man walked in with a gun hidden in his jacket.
Spoke some Russian for a few seconds while they were trying to invite him to join the class. Then this person, I saw the security footage, I was not there, pulls out a gun, starts cocking it, starts putting bullets in, Everyone doesn't know what's going on. And then this person starts shooting and the people are cowering, and then things he says something along the lines of either, I heard two versions, I'm from Mossad, and then started shooting, or I give my regards to Mossad.
The man is then seen walking out of the center like nothing happened. Police believe the bullets used were blanks, so no one was hurt and no damage was done to the synagogue.
The people who were here described it to me that the guy looked like he had malice in his eyes, like he wanted to hurt them. For one reason or another, this person decided, I guess, not to harm anyone.
Hakhel says the center is mainly used by Russian-speaking Jewish people, but it's always open to all, so they often have newcomers walking in. You can see in the video, barely anyone inside flinches or runs for cover when the shots are fired.
I don't think most of the people even realized this was happening, as well as, like, we're talking about elderly people. These are, I think the youngest are in their 60s, and we have some 80-year-olds. I don't know if our 90-year-old was here, but, like, you know, these are people who don't get up very quickly.
No one called the police department that night. Hakhel says the people there have a fear of law enforcement.
Their view of police is when police come, somehow the Jews end up being blamed, and, you know, they spend some of their formative years hiding their Judaism from the police.
But Hakhel knew he had to call police to report this attack.
It's terrifying to me to think that my family could have been here, that he could come back. We don't know who this person is.
The vice president of the center says they're trying to get private security for Shabbat this Friday, but it's very expensive. When attacks have occurred at synagogues in the past, they say that they've asked the mayor and police for patrols around the center, but they were denied, is what they say. I did see some officers circling the center. Of course, they're still looking for that shooter at this hour. Pam, Ken, back to you.
Baruch Hashem, they did catch the man, and he is in custody. In some more happy news, here's Rabbi Zusha Wilhelm from no less than Auschwitz.
I'm standing in a place where as you can see in the background, this is Auschwitz, and the blood of our brothers have passed away. I myself, my grandmother, my father's mother, and my father's sisters were Al-Kiddush Hashem over here, taking Al-Kiddush Hashem. And obviously it's this week's Parsha is Zachar Asher Asa L'cha Amalek, Timcha Zecher Amalek. The film I'm wearing is the film of my father, for his Rabbeinu Tam. My father was right there, and the schools that he had to be saved, and Baruch Hashem established a family. I'm using his siddur, Bekim Avram David, as it says. This could be the biggest nitzachim, as the Eibishter is always the winner. Just a couple of days ago, I came across a chaver of mine sent me Svarim, a copy of a sefer of Shilas Tzuvas Mikachi Hashem. There was a Shilas Tzuvas of a Rav who was asked Shilas while he was in the concentration camp, and the stories are earth-shattering. What he has to deal with. He says a story of Erev Rosh Hashanah. The Nazis took a group, and any boys 18 and anybody 18 and younger, they were sent to the death camps. And when they came to the camp, there was about 1,600 young kids like that. And one of the guys made the selection. As we know, I can't even say this. To the right and to the left, and everybody knew what their seif was. So, and the group that the group that was taken to everybody knew where they were going. There was a parent who had a lot of connections, and he came over to the Rav and says, "Rebbe, I'm able to bribe and get my son out of there, but I know that if I do that, they'll right away take somebody else instead of him. Am I allowed to do that?" And the Rav was frightened to answer that shaila. He didn't want to deal with that. He didn't want to deal with that problem, because he knew that this is a shaila of a ritzicha, the shaila of my chazis, the chazis tvei. Yes, but I know you could save your son. And the father says like this. I don't want you to withhold. I want to give me the answer. Because I see that you can't answer me, and you're not telling me. Tut wie wilt, azoi wie wollt mich nicht gefragt. Rebbe, ich hab getan das meine. He says to the Rav, Rebbe, I did what I was supposed to do. Was die Torah ist mich mechayev zu tun. Ich hab gefragt das Scheile bei Rav. Kein anderer ist nicht da. Und ihr könnt mir nicht empfehlen, dass ich weg auslese mein Kind. Ist doch as simon as sagt bei eigentlich fertig in Halacha Matter zu sein. That means you can't tell me for sure that you give me permission. Warum wenn es wollt gewend Mutter, because if I'll be Halacha, I would be able to bribe and get my kid out. Belishum pickbook. Wollt ihr doch mir sicher geämpft as his Mutter. You would have told me go ahead and do it. He's doch bei mir wie absagt in. So I get the hint. I got your message. I got the psak din. As ich tar nicht auf die Halacha. Is das bei mir nicht genug. Und bei mir wird mein einzige, bei mir genug. I got my message. Und bei mir wird mein einzige Kind verbrennt werden auf die Torah Halacha. Bin ich das mit Kabel, Be'ava, Besimcha. Und ich tue das noch nicht im Isolation. I'm not going to help. I'm able to get my son. But if this is what the Eibishter wants, this is what I do. This is one story. I'll tell you another short story it says here. A short story. Is a story of Simchas Torah. And they were in one of these barracks. And they get together and they knew where they were going. Chaverim Yikarim. It's the Simchas Torah. Emes haben nicht kein Sefer Torah zu tanzen. Aber der Rabbeinu Shalom sind bei uns. Lassen wir tanzen mit ihm. Lassen wir werden verbrennt. This is the Mesiras Nefesh of the place we're standing on. Hashem Yim Kern Dambam.
Yeah, that was tough, huh? That was tough. All right, HaYom Yom for today, the 16th day of Shevat. May Hashem avenge all of their bloods and neshamas.
A senior whose family is actively involved in his or her care will live longer than the senior whose family is not. Even if the uninvolved family is kind enough to place the fellow in the most fantastic assisted living program. The reason for that is simple. Even the most highly trained, highly dedicated nursing staff are still a team of employees, and that can never replace the love and passion that family can provide. Today's HaYom Yom challenges you to ask yourself the following question. Am I serving Hashem like an employee punching the clock, or like a loving child serves a parent? Said Rabbi Shalom Ber, the 5th Rebbe of Chabad, someone who engages in Torah study and in prayer in a cold and uninspired manner is flirting with heresy, because coldness and heresy are separated by only a very slim barrier. Hashem is described as a consuming fire. When you study Torah and when you pray, it has to be done with a blazing heart. Every fiber of your being has to be vested in the words of Torah and the words of prayer. So a fiery passion is not a luxury. It's as critical and as necessary as life itself.
All right, there you have it. Hey, good morning, good morning. All right, and now a word from our sponsors. Where is it? Here we go. And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidol.com.
PestProRidol.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidol.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to tarzangroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565. And order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at tarzangroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids, beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications. Logos, wall hangings, Judaica. And you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe.
All right, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar if you would like to contribute today into bringing Torah to the world. Yeah, that's how it goes. All right. All right. Well, you know what? I'm on the wrong screen over here. Yeah, this really messed me up.
Torah, 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 Torah.
All right. We are doing the Torah portion, the overview from Parshas Yisro. Now, if Yisro was so smart that he worshipped all the idols in the world before realizing that Hashem was the only God, so why didn't he realize on his own that all these intermediaries excuse me, have no power of their own, but are rather just tools in Hashem's hand? In fact, the nature of reality in Yisro's time was more conducive to the pagan outlook than to the truth. Ever since the primordial sin in the Garden of Eden, the world had become increasingly hostile to holiness, and Hashem's presence had been further and further banished from the world. It seemed that Hashem really had given his powers over to the forces of nature. Avram and his successors reversed this trend, and their work was now about to be consummated. The breach that had developed between divinity and worldly reality was about to be healed, enabling godliness to permeate all reality and enabling all reality to sense divinity. Excuse me 1 second. This was why the 10 plagues and their culmination, the splitting of the sea, were a necessary precursor to the giving of the Torah. When the sea split, the hidden spiritual dimensions of reality, evinced by the sea, which hides all forms of life within it, became revealed. Divinity became temporarily obvious and self-evident throughout all creation. But the splitting of the sea was not enough. True, the power of evil, the denial of Hashem's omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence was temporarily neutralized, but it was not uprooted entirely, since the philosophical underpinnings of idolatry still existed. Now, as soon as the sea reverted to its natural state, it was once again possible to live under the delusion that Hashem's power extends only throughout the realms of holiness, but that nature is somehow beyond his control. That's why Amalek could attack Israel even after the splitting of the sea, when all the inhabitants of Canaan melted away from fear. The nation of Amalek is the personification of doubt and its resulting apathy. As long as there's room to think that Hashem and life are two separate compartments of reality, we can entertain the notion that we can live without Hashem's full involvement. Now that undermines our natural enthusiasm for Judaism, for Torah and its mitzvahs, because then they become a burden to be discharged so that we can get on with the business of living. Certainly, there's no point in giving the Torah to the Jewish people in this kind of climate. Only when Yisro, the embodiment of the anti-Torah philosophy and spiritualism, concedes that Hashem is greater than all other gods, thereby crowning him king over all aspects of life down to the most mundane and seemingly natural details, is the stage set for the Torah to descend from heaven. And we will continue with this tomorrow, God willing. In the third Aliyah, Moshe accepted his father-in-law's suggestion, remember, to set up judges of 10, judges of 100, judges of 1,000, and that Moshe will only decide the most important cases. So then Moshe sets up this hierarchical judicial system, and Yisro returns to his native land. Let's get a little medrash on that, all right? All right, well, the judges that Yisro said should be good leaders, wealthy people who cannot be paid off to make false judgments, to be afraid of Hashem and not of people, to be honest and not to be interested in money. They should look at money as not important. Now, Yisro loved being among the Jewish people, with Moshe and his family and his grandchildren, but he decided to return to Midian. He wanted to teach his children and others about Hashem. So he decided to go back and try to convert his family and the other Midianites. Moshe tried to get Yisro to stay, but Yisro had made up his mind. And Moshe sent off Yisro with great honor and with many, many, many gifts. Now, the most important day in world history is the day the Torah was given, and we will talk about that more tomorrow. Here is Shnayim Yomi.
Parshas Yisro, Shlishi. The Aliyah opens up by telling us how Moshe Rabbeinu listened to the words of Yisro, and he did everything that he said. And Moshe Rabbeinu appoints these Anshe Chayil to be the leaders over Klal Yisrael. He appoints the leaders over thousands, the leaders over hundreds, the leaders over 50, and the leaders over 10. And all of the small matters, all of the small disputes go to those leaders, and the bigger issues are dealt with by Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Aliyah ends off by telling us Vayeshalach Moshe es chosno vayelech lo arza, that Moshe sent off Yisro, and Yisro went back to his land. And Rashi points out over here that what does it mean vayelech lo arza? He went back to his land to convert all the members of his family, to bring them closer to the ways of Torah.
Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. All right, Rabbi Chaim Marder.
Boker Tov, good morning. Today is the 16th day of Shevat, Taz B'Shvat, and I left you telling you that we'll understand well what's going on here. Yesterday we talked about this agreement between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, a 15-day difference, and we're not going to get too caught up in this anymore either, about what's exactly the seasonal description that we have, but we're told this is when the sap begins to run in the trees. Okay, that's interesting. So now let's go back to Rosh Hashanah Le'ilanot. It is the new year for trees. What does that mean? And so here the Gemara explains what's at stake, as it were. Tanar Banan Ilan Shechan Tu.
Hassle and the rest of that, because we've already discussed Tu B'Shvat. Yeah. All right, Rabbi Zosha Zilberstein.
Tzedakah, my dear friends, every day. The more the merrier, the more often. It says that with every little ring that we do when we're throwing a coin in the pushka, this creates another angel. And we need all those angels possible. Yesterday was Tu B'Shvat. And as such, in the last 2 days, we spoke about Tu B'Shvat. Yesterday, we discussed historical interesting trees. Today, I would like to read for you a letter that the Rebbe sent to someone. It's part of a lengthy letter, but there is a big part of it which is connected, related directly to Tu B'Shvat. And here it is, excerpts. Man was given reason and intellect, so that by his powers of understanding and deduction he can see, even in the most ordinary things of life, a lesson and moral encouragement in his duties and conduct, both with regard to his Creator and to his fellow man. Take, for example, says the Rebbe, the tree. An example I choose here because of the New Year of Trees, which is in this season. Let me just point out one. Most of the plants, and especially trees, consist of several component parts, which are classified into three main groups. The root, the axis or main shaft, which bears the branches and leaves, and the fruit, the shell, the fruit and seed. These three main parts have their own functions. The root is the means of obtaining the nourishing substances necessary to the plant's life from the earth. It also provides a firm entrenchment for the plant against the wind. It is by far the most important life-giving agent of the plant, though the leaves also contribute towards the living plasma of the plant by obtaining from the air and from the sun rays essential substances for the plant's existence. The stem provides the main body of the tree and clearly marks the growth and development of the tree. But the tree obtains perfection only upon producing fruit, for in it lies the seed for the procreation of its kind, generation after generation. Now, says the Rebbe, man is likened to a tree, says the Torah. Ki adam eitz hasadeh. This likeness is particularly marked in the spiritual sense. The root is his fate which links the Jew with his origin and which constantly obtains for him his spiritual nourishment. The stem, the Torah and mitzvot, these must grow even as the age of a tree increases its stem and branches. But the fruit, which more than anything else justifies the existence of the tree, is the good deeds of man, those mitzvot which benefit others as well as self, and which have within them the seed that produce similar good deeds. To sum up, the roots of the Jew and his very link with the origin of his life lie in his true faith in God and in all the fundamental principles of our religion. Unless the roots are firm and firmly embodied in the soil, the tree, despite its trunk and branches and leaves, will not withstand the strong wind. The development and advancement, and in fact the entire stature of the Jew can be seen through his good deeds in the practice of Torah and mitzvot. Finally, his perfection comes through the fruit, by benefiting others and helping to perpetuate our great national heritage. And the Rebbe concludes this part. Before the sin of Etz Hadat, the sin where God forbade Adam and Eve to eat from the fruit of knowledge, all trees were bearing fruit. And in the future, in the time of Mashiach, all trees will bear fruit. And as our sages told us, the first command in the Torah is that of procreation. Pru urvu umilu ha'aretz. As such, a Jew must see that there be another Jew. And may God help us that this moment of the all trees bearing fruit should be happening today. And as the Rebbe concludes, with kindest personal regards.
And that's how the Rebbe always concluded his letters, which is absolutely, positively amazing. All right. And now we have time for Rabbi Label Wolf. Oh, no, we did Rabbi Wolf. Sorry. Rabbi, you know what? Let's do Dr. Laz.
Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Lazman Azeh. In the 305, that's Miami. Wishing you all a great rest of the week. An early Shabbat Shalom. Have a great weekend. Yeah, just wanted to share with you, as I'm still trying to break in these skates, these beautiful skates. They got the big wheels on them. And you can see those big wheels over there, the hundreds. Yeah, and over in T-Watt Park, having a dandy old time. Yeah, and just wanted to share with you one quick thought. Okay, so this week's Torah portion, we read about Jethro, and I'm not talking about Jethro Tull. I'm talking about Moses or Moshe's father-in-law. In Hebrew, Yisro or Yitro. English, they have translated as Jethro. But nonetheless, this is the week that we read about, the giving of the 10, what are commonly translated as the 10 Commandments, but that is not really accurate. In Hebrew, it's called the Aseras Adibros, or the 10 spoken, I'm not sure even how to explain that in English, the 10 matters that were spoken about, okay? Aseras Adibros comes from the word daber, which means to speak. And so it's interesting that in this week's Torah portion, it talks about one of the mitzvot. The English translation is usually commandments, but that's really an inaccurate translation. Okay? No dice. Sorry, folks. It's not a commandment. It is a encouragement. It's a, Hashem is recommending, highly recommended. Okay? There's no real Hebrew word for commandment, which is interesting. But I wanted to speak about, very quickly, the mitzvah of the special mitzvah comes from the word savta, which means to connect. Because that's what it's all about. We're connecting with ourselves, connecting with our essence, connecting with our spirituality, and also with God. So it's powerful stuff. I wanted to share with you the idea of Sabbath moments. It's spoken about in much of the literature, and I'm talking about the educational world and the psychological world, what are known as Sabbath moments. What are it's interesting, one of the 10 encouragements, if you will. It's like a good idea here, folks. Maybe you should try to do this. One of the 10 is to keep the Sabbath holy. So there are many educators who speak about this idea of whatever your Sabbath moments are, that you have to keep them holy. That means no cell phones. That means you put away the remote, you turn off the TV, and you listen and talk to each other. That is a Sabbath moment. So it could be it's reading a story to your kids. Turn off your cell phone, put it away. Don't even put it on vibrate. Put it in another room. Okay, you're out to dinner. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I see people. Just the other day, a couple days ago, there was a mother with her daughter, and the daughter was just sitting there, and the mother was on her cell phone the whole time. And I felt so bad for the daughter. And I actually interrupted the mother just to make some stupid conversation to see if I could snap her out of it. And I said, did you have a kid who goes to Camp Masora? That's a camp that I work at. And she said to me, no, what's Camp Masora? So she had no idea. But perhaps I should have been more direct and said something like, excuse me, you have your daughter with you, why don't you put your phone down? And I saw she was like, there's a table right next to her. She was on Facebook, Instagram, and all that. Put your dang phone down and talk to your kid. What is your problem? So I feel like that we all can do better in our Sabbath moments. And whether it's the entire Shabbat from Friday night, sundown, to Saturday night when the stars come out, or whether you are taking your kid to the library, you're out for dinner together. Those are your Sabbath moments. Keep them holy. All right? Cherish them. You ain't going to get them back. You will not get them back. So you got to grab them while you got them. All right. Peace, love, soul, happiness. Wishing you all a wonderful rest of the week and a lovely Shabbat Shalom. And keep those Sabbath moments, y'all, while I try to figure out how to maneuver on these new skates. All right, peace out. Woo. Oh yeah.
All right, there you go. We have time for one more, and guess what? We have a Rabbi Michael Kegel again today.
Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva were two Talmudic sages who lived in Israel when the land was part of the Roman Empire. Both of them left this world around the year 135. Rabbi Ishmael was a Kohen Gadol, a high priest, brought up in an illustrious household of saintly, righteous Kohanim. Rabbi Akiva was a descendant of converts and an illiterate shepherd until he was 40. At the age of 40, he set out on a path of return to the Torah, the path of Tshuva, and went on to become no less great a sage than Rabbi Ishmael, indeed one of the greatest sages of all time. Given the differences in their lives, it's no wonder that these two great sages had different perspectives on the Torah. For example, this is how each one of them understood what happened at Mount Sinai when the Israelites received the 10 Commandments. Rabbi Ishmael says that to the positive commandments, like keep Shabbat, honor your parents, the Israelites answered yes. And to the negative ones, like don't steal, don't murder, the Israelites said, no, we will not sin. Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, said that they answered yes to both positive and negative commandments. What's the difference between these two perspectives? To help us see it, let's look at another related difference in their perspectives. At Sinai, when the 10 Commandments were given, the Torah says that all the people saw the voices and the lightning. Kolot in Hebrew literally means voices. In juxtaposition with lightning, kolot might refer to thunder, poetically speaking. More literally, however, kolot refers to the polyvalent voice of God. Rabbi Ishmael says they saw what is seen and heard what is heard. In other words, they saw the lightning and they heard the thunderous voice of God. Rabbi Akiva says, nope, actually they saw what is heard and heard what is seen. In other words, they saw the thunderous voice of God and they heard the lightning. Each of these perspectives presents a problem. Rabbi Akiva's perspective is obviously problematic because voices are not seen and lightning is not heard. But Rabbi Ishmael's perspective is also problematic because he seems to be stating the obvious. Let's start with Rabbi Akiva. What does he mean? As a rule, God does not perform miracles unnecessarily, which means that the miraculous inversion of the powers of hearing and sight, according to Rabbi Akiva, was a necessary feature of God's giving of the 10 Commandments. The spiritual state of the Israelites was so elevated by this great revelation that their senses took on miraculous powers. At a tremendous spiritual altitude, in a state of sublime religious ecstasy, they saw the voice of God and they heard the lightning. The difference between seeing and hearing is significant here. Seeing is, that's right, seeing is believing. According to Halacha, an eyewitness to an event cannot be a judge in a case about the event, simply because no counter-argument would be able to sway the power of what he witnessed with his own eyes. A judge can only be impartial when he listens to two conflicting testimonies regarding an event that he himself did not see with his own eyes. Seeing is believing because it's more physical, in a sense. You see things, like a shoe. Or a boot. Nah, let's say a shoe. Hearing is more spiritual. You hear not just sounds, but words, meanings, intentions, feelings, thoughts. So when Rabbi Akiva says that the Israelites at Sinai saw what is normally heard, this means that the spiritual became as tangible as the physical. When they were told in the first commandment, I am the Lord your God, the very essence and reality of God was made available to their powers of sight. They saw godliness. By the same token, the reality of the world, which is normally corroborated by sight, faded away and became a matter of hearsay, like a rumor. The reality of the world was dissolved in the superior reality of I am the Lord your God, like an ice cube in warm water. In their state of religious ecstasy, the Israelites still knew that the world existed not because it was obvious, but only because they were told, as a matter of hearsay, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Now, what about Rabbi Ishmael's opinion? Does he prefer to see fewer miracles in the awesome revelation of the Ten Commandments? For Rabbi Ishmael, to be sure, the revelation was no less miraculous. But the real miracle inhered in the fact that the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai. In other words, that the high came low, that the infinite descended into the finite. The miracle was precisely that the world was not dissolved by the revelation, even though it should have been. So, who is right? Rabbi Ishmael or Rabbi Akiva? What was the bigger miracle? Now remember, Rabbi Ishmael was a Kohen Gadol. A high priest is someone who is utterly sanctified to his God. His service is that of the righteous and saintly, to transmit holiness to this world, to bring what is highest down to the lowest. So for him, the great miracle was the descent of the divine down to the human. Rabbi Akiva, for his part, was a man of return, a Baal Tshuva. His spiritual labors were focused on ascending higher than this world. So for him, the greater miracle was the ascent of the human up to the divine. An ascent that requires transcending of physical limitations. They saw what is heard. But of course, both miracles took place at Sinai as two miraculous aspects of one total miracle. And the question is simply one of which miracle should be focused on. The difference between these two perspectives is also found in a corresponding difference in outlook on what constitutes a commandment, a mitzvah. On the one hand, each commandment has unique characteristics tailored to a specific human activity for the purpose of sanctifying a unique aspect of the world. So the commandments are all different from each other. On the other hand, each and every commandment is given by God in the very same way that every other commandment is God-given. In this respect, the commandments are all the same. And just as each sage focuses on one of the two aspects of the total miracle, each one focuses on one of the two aspects of a commandment. Rabbi Ishmael, who is concerned above all with bringing godliness down into this world, has an eye for the details of the commandments, the special way that each one sanctifies an aspect of the world. So he says the Israelites were mindful to answer yes to the positive ones, yes, we will do them, and no to the negative ones, a horrified no to the possible damage of each potential sin, heaven forbid. The primary concern of Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, is to elevate the world with all its particulars to the supernal unity of God. For him, the key element in all the commandments is their participation in the unified will of God. So he says that the Israelites responded with a resounding yes to positive and negative commandments alike. The yes of Rabbi Akiva is altogether different from the yes of Rabbi Ishmael. It's a yes connecting the yes-saying soul to godliness itself. Who is right then? Both, of course. Both are right, and the question, again, is nothing more than one of focus. For the Baal Tshuva, the individual who still feels the pull of the physical world, the focus must be on making his experience of godliness as lucid and as strong as his experience of witnessing something with his eyes. Sort of like seeing infinity itself, instead of lots of numbers. On the other hand, for the one who has achieved this power of holy sight, this very same world that has been rendered a matter of hearsay by this powerful spiritual seeing, a world dissolved in godliness, this same world must be seen a second time, seen with new eyes, eyes used to seeing godliness. The world must be seen as the physical depths into which godliness miraculously descends. As if, after seeing beyond all numbers, seeing infinity, one could see the infinity, or an infinite number of infinities, inside numbers. Well, it's sort of like that.
All right. There we have it. And now we're moving on to the saying of Tehillim. Are you ready? Let's go. The saying of Tehillim. Aliyah, you would take this all day, every day. You ready? All right. Tanya for the day. It's the 16th day of the month of Shvat.
Tanya.
Let's talk Tanya for the 16th of Shvat. Yesterday we were saying that every sin is ultimately an expression of klipa, avodah zarah, idolatry, and therefore all sins are essentially the same. Every single one of them is a rejection of God's unity. The problem is that anyone who knows anything about Judaism knows that there are differences in sins, and some of them are considered biggies, and some of them are not considered as big or as heinous as others. And this is reflected also in the punishments. The punishment for every mitzvah, whether here in this world, by the courts, or in the next world, isn't the same. For some averas, some sins, there's what's called kares, which means the soul is cut off. So how can we say that every avera is the same thing? And although the Alter Rebbe doesn't mention this explicitly over here, it would seem that the same question could be asked also in the other way. We're saying all mitzvahs are the same, they're all an expression of God's unity, but we know that some mitzvahs are considered bigger or more important than others also. And the answer the Alter Rebbe gives is the difference between one avera and the next is not in the time when the avera is being committed, when the sin is being committed. The difference is in the terms of the after effects. And to understand this, let me give an analogy from marriage. What is marriage? Marriage is essentially one simple point, which is you have two people and each one of them starts out as an I, and they commit to each other. There is no more I. From now on, it's we. And from now on, each spouse is committing that they're considering the others and the other person's feelings, and everything is done within the context of that marriage. Now, there are many moments in marriage, and in terms of the positive, let's say, so there's the small things that that one spouse does for the other, and then there are the big things, the monumental things, the huge things. But ultimately, all of them are an expression of one simple point, which is, I am married to you, and we are we at the moment. On the other side, there are times when one spouse or the other will step out of the marriage. What does that mean to step out of the marriage? Anytime that you are inconsiderate to your spouse, you are essentially saying, at this moment, it's not we, it's I, and I'm not taking you into consideration. So whether it's leaving the socks on the floor instead of throwing them into the hamper, whether it's having a temper tantrum screaming at the spouse, whether it's doing something far more serious, whether it's infidelity, each one of them essentially, at the moment when it is being done, it's really the same statement. The statement is, at this moment, I am not married. I've opted out at this moment, opted out of the marriage. Does that mean that every single indiscretion is the same? No. But it's more about the after effects. If you threw the socks on the floor instead of putting it in the hamper, at that moment when you did it, okay, you're out. But the moment after it happens, you're going to be back in. If a spouse does something more serious, the after effects and the damage that it does in the marriage are much more serious, and it's going to take much more effort to fix it up. But that's all about the after effects. Again, at the moment when a person steps out, does it really make a difference what's happening? The essential sin over here is not what's done, but the statement that you are making. The exact same thing is when it comes to Navera, when it comes to a sin. When a person is doing a sin, it doesn't make a difference what it is. It doesn't make a difference whether it's bowing down to a cross, or whether it's eating something which isn't kosher, whether it's missing a davening, whether it's not making kiddush, whatever it may be. At that moment, what you're essentially saying is, I am something other than God, and I have autonomy to do whatever I want other than God. That is avodah zarah, that is idolatry, or worse than idolatry, as discussed in the previous lessons. However, in order to rectify that, and we know the punishments in the Torah are about rectifications, yeah, it depends. How much damage was done to the relationship? Sometimes if it's a small avera, so then afterwards you pick up the pieces and right away you return to the service of God and to the relationship. Sometimes the damage done is so great that it's not so simple to pick up, and you need a much more difficult rectification. So they're both true. Are all averas the same? The answer is yes and no. Yes, in terms of the statement being made, and at the idea that at the moment that you're doing an avera, when a person does an avera, they are saying, I am something separate from God, which is the essence of idolatry. In that area, all averas are the same. On the other hand, in terms of the after effects, there definitely are differences. With this, we have wrapped up a lot. If you remember, we started off talking about the unity of God, and then we started talking about idolatry. Then what we did was, we said every mitzvah is the unity of God. Now we finished up explaining how every single sin is the embodiment of idolatry. Now we're going to take all that information that we've amassed over the last few chapters, and in the next chapter, we're actually chapter 25, we're going to include this entire topic, and this, with all this information, we're going to understand how the hidden love that every single Jew has can be used and tapped into and leveraged in their every single day in their struggle against the animal soul.
All right. Sefer HaMitzvos of the Rambam is up next.
No, it's not impossible that ever did say.
We are ready.
Rambam each and every day. I'll never miss my daily Rambam. My episode desires. I'm not busy or too tired. When I learn Rambam connected, I remain. I am a link in the Rebbe's golden chain.
Today we study negative mitzvah 250, which is the prohibition against onah, which literally means cheating. The Torah says that when conducting transactions of buying and selling merchandise, we are not to cheat each other, specifically meaning by overcharging or underpaying. The way Torah sees this, when a person is overcharged or underpays by less than a sixth of the market value of the object, he is not considered to have transgressed this prohibition, because people generally tend to not mind if a change in less than a sixth of the price is made. But if a person overcharges or underpays by a sixth of the market price, he must return that extra money, or in the case of underpaying, he must pay the extra sixth that he's missing. If a person is overcharged or underpays by more than a sixth, then the entire transaction is considered invalid.
All right. Matters of Moshiach. All the women whose hearts inspired them with wisdom spun the hair of the goat for the Mishkan. This was particularly expert work, Rashi tells us. Like the Jews in the desert, our generation is charged with the task of making the world a sanctuary for Hashem. The most difficult work associated with the tabernacle was performed by the women, because they possessed the unique ability to truly transform the world into a house befitting Hashem. We must involve the women in all matters of Torah and mitzvahs, and only through the woman's touch will Hashem rest in our midst. Very, very cool words spoken by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And now Shmuel Tzvi.
Today is the 15th of Shevat. Mazal Tov. Today is the anniversary, the birthday of the trees. Today is the day where we celebrate, where the buds of the trees begin to start to grow. Not where the fruit itself, but for the potential of the fruit starts. The potential is infinite. We have infinite godly potential to bring into this world. We all have the spark of Moses in us. We could be the Moses of our situation. We are compared to trees, my friends. That is why we're celebrating the potential of the fruit, because the potential is infinite. You are not defined by your past, but rather you can be whoever you want to be. When you connect to the one above, the infinite one, to God himself, you can reach infinite godly heights. Let's get ready to greet Mashiach. God bless you all. Cloud covering Israel. Mashiach's coming. The clouds of glory are going to be revealed with the coming of Mashiach, God willing, today.
All right. And now our PSAs. Borough Park and Queens. In Rockland County, it's tomcheishabbos.org. Lakewood, tomche.org. Chicago, breakfastwithelli.live/Chicago Food Bank, and our national soup kitchen list at breakfastwithelli.live/soup kitchens. achiezer.org, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, by calling 516-791-4444, or their 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week website at achiezer.org. Hatzalah EMS, I said that backwards, didn't I? Hatzalah EMS is available, again, 24/7, 365, worldwide. That's right. Worldwide, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and others. All right. You can have life-saving services provided by Hatzalah. They are pretty cool indeed. Pretty cool indeed. If you don't have Hatzalah in your neck of the woods yet, you need to contact them or me, and we will get one started. Miss Oskim, missoskim.org, a wonderful organization there to provide you loving care in times of bereavement. And Just One Shabbat is there to help bring our youth back to the beauty of keeping Shabbat. Never see a hate crime in progress, please call 911, and that applies to Shabbos and Yom Tov. And you know what? You need to be wearing a mask.
Mask, wear a
Another one of my
mask. Is
friends
this really
reports
much to
getting
ask? Tie some fabric round your
You don't
face.
want it.
Oh, it's the simplest
They're
of
telling me that
tasks.
this
At
new
the
strain
gym,
is
at the store. Don't
debilitating.
treat it like such a chore.
Absolutely debilitating. Wraps around the mucus, wraps around your vocal cords, and gets into your chest. You need to be careful. Don't be brave. Go out there and take care of yourself. Get your vaccines. Take your booster shots. It is up to you, truly. All right. Sometimes you don't know whether to punish a child or to hug him. Punish him when he needed to hug, you've made a serious mistake. But if you hug him when perhaps he should have been punished, you just brought some extra love into the world. Think about that. Tomorrow we begin our section on parental. That was an introduction to it. That still has to do with child. Tomorrow we're going to talk about all parents. Okay? You want to talk to me about that beforehand? Come to me at any of the Active Rabbis group, at WhatsApp, or Twitter, or Facebook, or Clubhouse, or Instagram, or LinkedIn, or Spotify, or Telegram. The Actors Rabbi. At theactorsrabbi.com, you can sign up for life coaching. All right, let's make an after. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesronan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos bohem nefesh kol chai Baruch chai ha'olamim. All right. Thank you to my Patreon sponsor, Test Program on Park Without you, this broadcast could not go on. So thank you very, very, very much. If you'd like to become a sponsor, go to patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar. Use this handy QR code right here, and that'll take you right to where you need to be. All right. We have a nice video for you. Nati Levy is going to do a video for us today called Tikra Loi. It's brand new. All these videos I play for you mostly are brand new videos that I'm getting every single day. It's really, really cool. All right. It is Tuesday. Yom Shukl B'Kitev today. Hashem said twice it is good. So you have a responsibility to go out and do double good work today. In the words of Rabbi Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do a kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness for you. Draw a fellow close, and Hashem will draw you close to him. We are, look at this, the countdown clock to Purim, 29 days to Purim. I know, you can now watch our countdown clock over here, and we will be talking about Purim in the next couple of days. You're going to see some incredible new stuff about Purim. All right? Go out there and make it a great and glorious day. Henya Bas Bracha Dvar should have a refuah shlema. All those who need healing should have a healing. All those who had surgery or whatever, just get better. That's all I want from you. All right? Have a great and glorious day. Enjoy this video. I will see you tomorrow. Please bring 12 people to watch with you.
שנים שלא צעקת מבפנים, את כל הבעיות בצד תשים, ותקרא לו, הלו, ותדמה לו, ולא תמיד תוכל את זה לראות, תמיד יש עליות וירידות, רק תקרא לו, הלו, תצפה לו. תמיד אתה חזק רוצה ללחום, עכשיו אתה רוצה לנשום, לאסוף כוחות למחר, ומה שהתכוונת באמת, לקחת ורצית רק לתת, הוא יבין ללב שלך כבר, רק תקרא לו, הלו, תצפה לו, אצלו תמיד הכל אפשר, רק תקרא לו, הלו, תספר לו, הוא אוהב אותך את הטוב לזכור, תפסיק את זה בלב תמיד לשמור, ותקרא לו, הלו, ותדמה לו, כי גם אם היום בחוץ נגמר, אז בוא תביט על מה שעוד נשאר, ותשיר לו, שיר לו, ותודה לו. תמיד אתה חזק רוצה ללחום, עכשיו אתה רוצה לנשום, לאסוף כוחות למחר, ומה שהתכוונת באמת, לקחת ורצית רק לתת, הוא יבין ללב ותקרא לו, הלו, תצפה לו, באמת, אצלו תמיד הכל אפשר, ותקרא לו,